The first one I want to talk about, I'll do a little bit of a introduction to it. As you guys know, I've always thought that the airport would make for good residential. And we were hoping that the EPA building would go to a developer that would develop it into a residential property, condos, have a restaurant, potentially a brewery. We met a number of potential buyers over there and discussed those things, and everybody was excited about it. However, the cost of buying it and then getting it to the point where you could start the project was a concern. So as I drive around, I drive past areas that are just vacant blocks of land that has been left over from our Navy base housing days. We cleaned up rather easily the asbestos that was in the lots that Pirates Cove is developing. I was always really concerned that if we dug down there, what would we find? How do we do it? And this became a really great project to see what was there, and we ended up addressing that rather easily. So with that, the other areas that we have, I thought that we could start talking about putting some development there now and some residential. Grosse is in a desperate need to have housing of 2 bedrooms, 2,000 square feet. People want to downsize, but they don't want to downgrade. They want to have nice things. They want to move out of their big houses. We all talk about it at our age. And there's really no place to do that in Grosse unless you go to a condo. So I really believe that these types of developments somewhere in our Commerce Park, some people call them brown houses, but here's a picture of some row houses. You get into all kinds of different things of style and colors and streetscapes and things. This one here, we all recognize. I don't know, it's kind of really light there on the screen. That's in Wyandotte on Biddle. And they're just beautiful. They sell, they're really fantastic units. So I picked out a number of spots that we could build these things and then even expand that would have great street frontage. We did the roads back there, so we have real nice roads, and infrastructure wouldn't be a problem to develop these types of housing units. So that's the first one. How would we do it? Obviously, we should take all of our money out of our account and develop it ourselves. No, get a developer. We got to talk about that. There are people that would love to do this, I think, if we open this conversation up to people, get proposals. How we would do it? Well, you guys are the greatest minds here in the township. Collectively, we'll make the right decision after we first decide whether or not this is a project that we want to start talking about moving forward. I'm all fired up about it, and I'm pretty convinced that they would sell pretty quick. So that's one. This is a map. This isn't really a future development, but it's an opportunity maybe. I spent the last 25 years trying to protect this land that is to the south of Meridian School along Meridian. Everyone sees it when they drive down Meridian and then when they turn into the soccer fields. Our land is where the football field is, that's in red. This is what we lease for $1 a year to the recreation department. And then the woods that we have there is ours that we do nothing about. There is not as much of an issue with the FAA of shedding properties at airports where For example, the recreation, which is the other box to the west, it took us 10 years to actually get that land released. We released it, and then the township, we basically sold it to the township for an outstanding debt that we had. Actually, it was the roof here on the township hall over Hangar 1, and that became the wreck. I would suggest that we start thinking about maybe selling that property right there. That could be even a place where we could put row housing, if we wanted to do that. I kind of like the idea of putting it in these blocks here, or even right in here, but there's a lot of opportunities to do that. You know, I always manage and think in perpetuity when I think about the airport. I'm not so sure that we're going to need that land. We have so much other usable, developable land now, evident of the fact that our project at Pirates Cove went so well. So we're able to do things there and turn it into some unique streets and streetscapes. So I'd like to start thinking about potentially selling that, what it would take, what it would be worth. The football field, we have the outstanding debt. We have some monies that we pay 3.5%, I think, to the township. We should probably talk to the township to potentially turn that land of the football field over to them, just give that to them for the forgiveness of the loan that we have with them. And then Rec and Gyra and Giza and all the recreation folks would be able to have that in their portfolio. So what do we do with the money? I'm not a pilot, but if I owned a plane, I'd probably not be happy every time I went to my T-hangar. I'm very familiar with the problems that we have with the T-hangars, which ones leak, which ones flood. We did some maintenance work a few years ago because we addressed these things, but you can see all the rust down there. That rust. And that collage of colors. I'm sorry, you can't really see the colors, can you? Well, basically, it's all different colors. So these pictures, this is from the far north row, this is from the center row, and that's from the south row. So all three rows of hangars need to be painted. I think that with the great job that you guys have all done with generating new revenue from the 8 new units in '63, all the things that you guys have done generating really good revenue with the tennis center and also Pirates Cove, that these things need to be addressed. But I have to warn you, it is not going to be easy. And you'd have to spray these things. Paint flying around in the air next to airplanes are not the greatest combination. It would have to be a well-coordinated attack. It would have to be phased. So many units have the pilots, the tenants get their planes out. We'd have to probably help them put them inside somewhere. I mean, it's not just as easy as going over there and just start having somebody spray paint the hangars. But I want to start talking about this and coming up with some cost. Somebody asked me what would it cost to put the new bank of T-hangars in. For some of you guys that have been here for a long time, to the far south across from Across from this hangar, this hangar is the doors face to the south, they're the farthest south. Right on the other side of that ramp, we had prepped that area for new T-hangar expansions. And I know that I've had conversations with some people, tenants on the airfield, about new T-hangars and a corporate hangar, and just try to develop something there. Somebody asked me, what it cost, and I didn't know, and I felt like I should know. It's hard to say we're not going to do it because it's too expensive if we don't really know what it costs to do these things. So I'd like to at least research on what it would take to paint these, how much to add a new row. Just gather our thoughts here, because if we don't keep these things up, T-hangers, I think we have 82 T-hanger leases. Janelle, is it 82? 80?
65 T-hangers.
Oh, so that's all the planes. Okay, so yeah, just T-hangers.
65 just T-hangers.
Right, yeah. So
how many planes are in the T-hangers?
Ones that have owners. We have been working diligently to figure that out. I believe from our research, it looks like we may have 3 empty T-hangers without aircrafts.
but we have leases.
I am working on that data.
When Janelle says we, she means she. there's no we working on it, it's her.
So
But I thought we had a waiting list. You wanna come up, Jordan?
Yeah, I can. When I started, Mike stopped keeping a waiting list. He said that most of the time, when a T-hanger was empty, he'd call in the list and no one wanted it anymore. So he just started calling who he knew was looking for a hanger. I was gonna start creating lists. I hadn't heard from anyone that wanted to be on it yet. Once I hear from people, I was gonna start putting an actual list together of who was looking for a hanger. Me and Janelle put together the list of the tenants that we know of. I helped her with that, and we're trying to figure out where people are, what we have available, what we can start leasing out. But I think we have leases in for every hangar, at least last time I looked at it, but I could be wrong.
yeah, I mean, there's a little
Got it.
So yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother topic of conversation.
And another thing, just going along with what John was talking about, the biggest complaint I've heard while I've been working here is how the hangars have been kept up by tenants of the hangars. Also, this line of rust that he was showing is new from last year. That is because the snow plow, when they just piled snow against the hangars and left it there. So when I'm a flight instructor at the flight school, I had to pull planes out over 2 feet of snow some days, and it was just left there to melt, and it rusted a line straight across. So if we have better maintenance people who take the time to dig that out, this won't have to get repainted again for some time. So that's just something to think about while you guys are looking for new maintenance personnel.
Bottoms have been rusty for quite a while.
They got worse. They got worse over last year.
So, yeah.
Because it would get left, it would melt, it'd refreeze. I'd have to chip plain ice from our hangar so you can get them open some days.
So with our 65 T-hangers, we have 65 planes. They're not just storage units though, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's good.
There's no one just storing cars in things.
Well, you're required to have a plane, you have to register.
I get it, I'm just.
And then, but to your point, you have to register, you have to provide an N number when you sign the lease, but that doesn't mean that plane is always there, right? I remember from my days here, probably at least 10 or 12 of them never had a plane in them, so. And that was Tom Pajaski, I don't know if you remember him, but he had a big issue with that, so.
So I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that we did the entrance ramp to Hangar 2, which is a pilot's entrance ramp. Ron, I guess we're gonna talk about landscaping, but we'll finish that. We did the paperwork and got the grant for the taxiway, and that project is going. I think that from my standpoint, the next big project for aviation are the T-hangers. And I can't answer any question that anyone asks me about them. And I think that we just need to get those answers and start thinking about how we do that. So anyway, that's that one. Okay, so this one I'm pretty serious about. I've been doing a lot of research on this, and you know, we have 1735. We don't know what's going to happen with 1735. I just don't feel good about it. I hope I'm wrong. But the one thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to have 1735 just look like the old dirigible hangar pad, overgrown and just a blight over there. So I started researching about pilots and what they do, and I think that we need to, and I hope the pilots figure out a way as well to bring in more transit traffic, more activity here, to have people come in and experience Grosse, and everything that we have to offer with the golf courses and the fishing. And Chateau Voyageurs is the first term that was used here at this facility to bring in the adventurers, the people that flew and they hunted and they fished and they golfed and they do all this stuff. Well, there's a tremendous offering that we have here on Grosse. So how do we get people there? Well, I never realized that people that have planes love to camp. They love to go somewhere and they love to camp. So these are just some photos. Yeah, these guys just fly in, they hang out, they camp. This is an air show, and they have a really good time. Here's another one. So what do we do and how do we do it? I want to at least look at the possibility. Actually, I want to do it. I don't want to sugarcoat it. I kind of want to put a campground on 1735. It's just made for it. It's a beautiful place. I mean, ultimately, I'd love to put houses there to have T-hangers on the runway, a home, and a boat dock on the back on Frenchman's Creek. I mean, that would be the ultimate living scenario for pilots that love the boat. But obviously we can't just automatically turn this into a campground, but I'd like to at least give it an opportunity and try it. If you notice here, they just brought in porta potties there for this one. And then ultimately, if this thing is something that becomes more permanent, we have the ability to very easily put in a restroom there, an activity area, big fire pit, place for pilots to gather. So what does that do with 1735? Well, I think they could go hand in hand. If we're not going to be able to redo all of 1735, then one of the things that I want to look at is, well, can we do part of it? I think that runway is like 2,600 feet. Daryl, do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's almost
38. 38?
Yeah.
It's a great runway for student pilots, but it's not a true crosswind runway. And the way that they're funding these projects now is changing, and it's totally based upon activity, and they can manage, they can see all the aircraft activity, landings, takeoffs, where the planes are, and they're just gonna make the decision based on that. But there is a possibility of maybe shortening the runway to at least have some active strip over there, and then come in and taxi. Obviously, smarter minds than me would have to figure out what the logistics are. But I think it's a mistake if we do nothing and just wait. If we just wait to see what's gonna happen from a grant perspective, we just had 0422 done. We're just doing our taxiway. They've already said that it's not a true crosswind runway. Unless Janelle or Derek can say they have given us hope, I haven't heard any from anybody. Do we have even an update on?
Before Mike left, he had signed a contract with CNS to present an appeal, and that was in process. So, but they haven't answered the appeal yet. So, but I think if we could get grant funding for it, they were only going to be able to justify a shorter runway, like maybe 3,000 feet or. I think it was even shorter than that when we had talked to them. They were talking, yeah, right around 32, I think is.
More than the apartments are in the approach zone, and so to clear that, they were gonna shorten it.
So, this idea of having activity, out there, I mean, I'm sure the pilots are gonna have to weigh in on this and talk, but, or it's just a dumb idea, we move on, but I just don't wanna not do anything. I don't want the runway just sitting there not active, and this is a way that it can be a benefit to aviation still, even though it's not a full-length runway. And bring people in, which we need to do. We need to get transient pilots here. We're done being a little flying club anymore. We need to get transient pilots to come in here and experience Grosse. I just had a good friend, well, you guys probably all know Gary Soloway. One of my best friends, he came in, him and his wife came in this weekend, and he stayed with us, and we did nothing but talk about this kind of stuff and the activity that's going on around the country in aviation, especially their airport, and how much transient activity that they have and where they go. It really is a benefit to aviation and a benefit to us. So anyway, those are camping on 1735. Beautiful, love it, great idea, unbelievable. T-hangers, paint them, absolutely a must. Sell that, put a for sale sign up, build brown houses. What an idea, I mean.
Raise all your time as a
It's crazy stuff.
Mr. Mann's has somewhere to go.